They say we should have known better than to fall so deep down into this rabbit hole we found. And I was thinking...
Hi, this is Nikolai, and you're listening to my dad, Rafal, co-host James Jardine, and featuring Mr. Jim Tiller on the one and only Down the Security Rabbit Hole podcast. Plug in, listen up, and enjoy.
Deep into this pool of regrettable situations. Pitch black, think back to the last time that we were happy.
All right, here we go. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome down the Security Rabbit Hole to yet another edition of the Down the Security Rabbit Hole podcast. As we careen towards episode 700, I can't believe that number is that high. 700 episodes coming up on you folks. First, we'll have a couple of good ones in between here and there. Like, we got to do something for 700, James.
Yeah, that. By the way, that's numbered episodes because
that's right.
I'm on the podcast page. It says 706 episodes. So, well, we only have 659 posted, I think, or no, 669.
Yeah, 669
is out there. Yeah. So,
yep.
Yeah. I can't believe it wasn't just long ago that we were talking about 500.
Yeah,
or
right.
600,
It's funny. We'll do something fun. All right. This episode, by the way, guys, thanks for everybody that's joined us on LinkedIn. Thanks. The community's building there. That's where I post like some of these episodes. I'll post some sneak peeks on there. If you enjoy it, give us the social love. That's how everybody gets seen nowadays. So I hate asking for it. We're not monetizing it, but just if you could help us spread the word, that'd be great. And speaking of social love, on this episode, as you can see by the title, we're gonna try not to lose the entire audience. But I will tell you that if you are of a particularly sensitive type and have proclivities to be offended easily, this is not the episode for you. Michael's gonna walk us through some fun things. We're gonna talk about ethics. We're gonna talk about the rockstar CISO concept. We're gonna talk about some things that are unwelcomed in some parts of the cybersecurity industry. So I've never been one to shy away from this topic. James, we've done it before. We've made fun of influencers. So let's give it a go. Michael, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Rafa, for having me, and thank you, James, for having me, and congratulations on your close to come to 700 shows, which is crazy amazing. I have to admit, I've watched a couple of shows in the meantime from you. I didn't know you before we connected, but I will definitely spread the word. Trust me on that.
That's awesome. I appreciate that. That's good. I always tell people that the reason I do this is for conversations that I want to have, and I let the audience listen in. Like, I do this anyway, even if nobody listened, because these are just my way of staying in touch and learning something new and just talking to interesting people. And I followed you for a bit. I've seen your posts kind of scroll by, and most recently I read something by you and I was like, oh yeah, that guy needs to be on the show. We need to have that conversation. And we'll get there. We'll get there in a bit, but I want to start with this whole concept of like, as an industry, I think we have a rockstar CISO problem. And it's not because we've gotten a bunch of leaders that are famous for doing amazing things. Those people exist. That's not who I'm talking about. The people that, Michael, I suspect you and I are both talking about are the ones that have done something, but they're kind of like the movie stars or the influencers out there that are famous for being famous, right? They're out there.
Exactly. So basically, I love the term rockstar CISOs, basically. And you can probably translate this also to some other industries, but lately in cybersecurity, it has become a little bit extreme. And when you follow a little bit the social media, you see it, the trend. Hey, I grew up this morning. I went up this morning. Look how a CEO, it's 28 years, walks through this morning, and so on, and so on, and so on, yada, yada, yada. And with this, I was looking a little bit deeper into this topic because my feed suddenly lit up with, hey, top 100 CISO, one of these very nice rock star persons. And I'm not going into gender or male, female, whatever out there. And I looked into this and I said, it's interesting. I look a little bit into the profile. And I'm just going with a he right now. So just that, nobody's offended. And he basically was a security analyst. Nothing against security analysts, no doubt about this. But next time, he was again a security analyst for a company I have not even heard about this, 50 employees. And suddenly, with 10,000 of followers, wherever it comes, this person became the top 100 CISO influencers. I said, wow, how did he do this? Because he didn't even hold any CISO positions. Looked a little bit deeper into the topics. What does it work? And in LinkedIn, you find a lot of these in the meantime. I'm the top 100 CISO person. I'm the top 100 security guy, top 100 spokesperson in cybersecurity out there, top 1,000. And when you look a little bit deeper, the connections in the circle are always the same. So somehow it occurred to me, so that's weird. I have never heard of this. Now, I'm a seasoned CISO of 25 years, and many of my connections are. And I asked them, do you guys have heard of this, guys? And do you know what they are doing? And how do they achieve these rewards and awards and everything else? Nobody could tell me. So they are basically shifting these CISO awards one after the other. So basically, you have 10 people. 10 people nominate you. The next 9 people nominate you for the next award, and so on, and so on, and so on. And somehow they use the influence out there to get the votes for this topic. So, okay, they get a top 100 CISO awards. They get a rockstar CISO out there. But then the problem starts. The risk starts for the whole cybersecurity. When you think about the CISO role itself, we are out there to build trust. We are out there to protect businesses. We are out there to protect people. We are out there to warn against threats. We are out there to warn against cybersecurity, not only on businesses, also on private level. We have trust, we have integrity, we have ethics. And these people, they get hired from businesses, startups, renowned businesses, everything else, just because they have the Hall of Fame out there. While others who are doing the work, the real work out there, the GRC analysts, the SOCs, the specialists somehow, the penetration testers who go deep into the code, and even the CISOs, they're amazing people out there who know their stuff, exactly what to do, how to do it. They can speak business, technical terms, everything else. I met great people. They're not getting these awards, even though they are probably for some of these real awards. They also exist, obviously. They nominated, but they get only probably 100 votes or 200 votes. And this is really dangerous at the moment. And this is why I call these rockstar CISOs, I called them out. I didn't call them out by the name, but I called them out for the shows, whatever this is, and so on and so on. And this is how we came also in contact with.
That's right. You know, I've seen... I'm very familiar with this kind of concept because one of my best friends and now co-host of the podcast, who's conveniently absent today, Jim, is one of those people that, like, if you look far enough back into the past, Jim was literally the guy that wrote books on this industry and the how-to guides for the things that we take for granted today, IPsec, like those types of secure tunneling, those kinds of things. Like on secure networking, his name is the first one on the books, but you don't see him talking about himself. You don't see, like, these are the people that, I can name a couple because I know them. Like James Beeson's one of them, like one of my favorite people, amazing human, super intelligent, like one of the best CISOs, right? Dan Conroy, who I work for, phenomenal guy. You'll never find these guys on stage. Jason Woody's another, like, he can be convinced every once in a while, but he's not on stage every week giving keynotes, talking about how amazing he is and his security program and, all these things. He's out there doing the job, right? These guys are out there doing the job. There are plenty of people that do this. And it's a particular thorn in my side because the people that should get the recognition often don't, because they're overshadowed by people who are there to be famous. And this is those I don't need to name because they've got the spotlight, but we all know them. They join the company. They're there for 6 months, 8 months, 12 months, maybe. They're on, they get the big name somehow, because they've got a friend or somebody got them that role. They're on stage every week. They get their next role, another one. They're on stage every week. You're like, do you actually do anything, or are you just looking to be famous? And it's it's for the wrong reasons. Like we're supposed, like you said, we're supposed to be here to help do the good. We're supposed to be here to, I don't mind people benefiting from it. I mean, obviously I did from this industry. It's kept me well employed. It's kept my family well. It's afforded me quite a bit, but I think that there's something wrong with the pursuit of stardom, because this industry is really fascinated with it. And it's not just, and it's, by the way, it's not just CISOs, it's across all different types of roles.
Definitely.
Right.
And, how many places do you see evangelists on the payroll that somebody, because they go out and speak, they got brought in because they're the guru. And I
resemble that remark.
People are kind of like, what does this guy do here? I think a big thing to call out the difference, and I think, Michael, you started talking about this before, is there's a difference between somebody that's going out kind of influencing and, hey, I'm helping drive the discussion, which we need people in the industry to drive the discussion. But then that same side of, I'm somebody that drives the discussion, but I never worked a day of my life as a CISO or in this role, but I'm driving that role, right? And people are taking my input as I've done it when maybe I haven't done it, right?
That's the dangerous part, James. That's where it gets dangerous.
Exactly. This is the ethical thing I'm talking about. For me, it's major unethical to do what you said, Russell. Basically, they are going into the companies for 6 months, 1 year, 1.5 years. So they are collecting companies like titles as well, and like the top 100 CISO titles. These guys, they have an incredible resume after a couple of years. Google, Microsoft, Apple, Amazon, I stayed there. Plus call a few top Fortune 500 global companies on top of this. When you look a little bit deeper, 6 months there, 6 months there, 1.5 years there, 1.5 years there. But when they apply for positions, the top paid positions, and you know some of the top positions, they get really good salaries, up to 7 figures for CISOs. They get this position, and then it's getting critical because they bring in their own people, their own friends. But what they are doing actually, they're not helping. They don't know the basics of some topics. And I tried to talk to some of these guys. Most of the time it ends up I'm getting blocked when I really asked what are you doing? What is behind this? What is your education? What do you know about your job? They don't understand basics. When I was learning about cybersecurity, one of the basics is the CIA, so confidentiality, integrity, availability. What do you need to do with your topics and now your assets? What do you protect? And this is a basic question. Ask them, what are you protecting? When you see the stare blank face, what is he talking about? Then you already know what's going on. And they say, oh no, I'm here to report to the board of management. Oh no, you're not. The board of management is not what your job is. Your job is to protect the assets, the business, the processes behind it, to improve, to stay up to date, to educate the people, to go out there. I don't mind people writing a book. I don't mind if people going on conferences and speak and whatever else. It's actually good to do this. Spread the word. Get out there. Teach the people, teach the world what is going on, because many people don't even know how scary it is in cybersecurity, what exactly is happening. It's really, many of you know these picture problems, these iceberg picture from the internet, where you see just the top of the internet, and below you see everything else. And in cybersecurity is exactly the same. Now you just see the top, you see the top hacks out there, like what they had with Salesforce recently, Google got hacked and everything else. But this is not the big problems. Google, Salesforce, they will recover from this. We are talking about the medium-sized companies, the small companies, the startups, basically, the private people, which bank accounts got drained somehow because somebody is using wrong configurations, or let's say the medium-sized company with 100, 200 people get hacked because they couldn't afford a CISO anymore. Let's say some services behind it, they don't know how to protect everything, or they suddenly have to comply with some weird compliance framework out there with this topic, and these people are losing their jobs. And they look into these coming back to the rockstar CISOs, they're looking at these rockstar CISOs and say, hey, this guy knows what is going on. Let me help them. Let me ask them with this topic. And this is another story. They're sending requests to these people. They said, yeah, I can help you with whatever I want, question you have. Pay me up to $400, $500 an hour. And these are real numbers. And I say, yes, it's already lawyer numbers. And I give you my template. And then you can see what it is. And templates, I have seen one of these templates. It's just nothing. There's no substance behind it. It's like, hey, protect your assets, do awareness training, blah, 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 yada, yada, yada. And what should a company do this? So you paid $4,000 for what? A paper which basically you can download on the internet? This is just crazy. And the ethics behind it, I don't understand what it is. Now, when you look at the whole cybersecurity industry, coming a little bit to the broader section at the moment, there's a whole, let's say, education, defining of roles. What is a CISO role exactly? What is a GSC role exactly? What is a SOC lead role behind it? There is no clear definition out there. Everybody knows what a CISO has to do, but does really everybody know what the role is behind? He's not a technical analyst anymore. He's not the guy who is going into the infrastructure anymore and really is looking into vulnerabilities. The CISO today, he has a role to basically translate the business strategy into his cybersecurity strategy. He has a role to interact with the business. He has a role to interact with his people from the intern up to the CEO. He has a role to open doors, to integrate himself into the business processes and open the door for his people. It's more a leadership role. It's more a business role than anything else in the meantime.
It's interesting that you say that, because this podcast, 700 plus, a number of episodes ago, started from that conversation. Dave Kennedy and I were on Twitter, and we were going back and forth, and like 1,000 people joined in this conversation about should the chief information security officer be somebody that starts in the technical ranks and then works their way up and becomes a CISO, or should it be somebody that is part of the line of business that moves over into a leadership role in security? And we went back and forth on this probably for a long time. And I think what we're learning, if I'm reading the tea leaves and the telling correctly, is that the super technical, the deeply technical CISO has a place in smaller companies, but not in the medium to large enterprise, because it becomes untenable. They need to be somebody that is ingrained in the business, understands the frameworks, the regulations, the politics, the who's who and what does what, how does this thing work, and why do we make money, and what happens, if this thing goes dead, or if this process. And so it's very much you hire people that are highly technical that can keep you up to date, but you dictate policy and strategy. And we can argue about that all day long, but I think that's the key. But coming back to this, you mentioned it. I think we've all said this already. It's these rock star CISO type roles, these personas become dangerous to the businesses they're in for a number of reasons. I think not the least of which is they put out, pardon the expression, bullshit advice that at very least is nothing, at very worst is actually dangerous.
Oh,
right?
yes.
You tell people to do stuff that's just not smart.
Not only do stuff, also, sorry that I interrupt you a little bit.
Yeah, please.
Not only do stuff, it's also about buying stuff, buying suppliers, bringing in suppliers, which is a complete different story behind it.
Yeah, and that's the other thing I wanted. So you put, thank you for that nice softball lead in. I'll take a swing, but we've been seeing this. Yeah, there was a couple articles written on it, and it really quickly went quiet. This whole thing of like CISOs joining, boards and becoming part of an advisor to investment firms that then sell them the technology that then they get a stake in for buying that said technology and spreading the word on. Like, I have a huge ethical problem with that.
Yes.
Again, not calling anybody out, but I know firsthand, right? I've heard the story. I've witnessed it, where a CISO and their deputy would alternate bringing in. So if the CISO had a favorite company she liked that she was an investor in, her deputy would bring them in and propose that they buy them. Therefore, the CISO's hands were clean. If the deputy had a particular company that they were invested in, or they were an advisor to, the CISO would then take the meeting and propose that they do business with them. Ergo, the deputy's hands were clean. They were both making money on this. And at some point I said, I'm not playing this game because, as a vendor, even a while back, like this is just, it doesn't feel right. And like no good comes of this because at some point this is going to hit daylight and everybody gets burned that's involved in it. But did they? Because I want to believe that in the end, this will get resolved and people that have perpetrated this and have done this ethical, we'll say, malfeasance will get called out. The world will be right again. But that story that was written a bit ago about that Israeli VC firm, like in that incubator, like that made headlines and then poof, went quiet.
Yeah. And it's still out there a lot. Recently, basically what led me to one of the posts I made recently was a friend of mine. He works for a small startup company. He's a very experienced person, and he thought long about joining the startup because he wanted to do something, which is fair. And he has still obviously a very, very good network with everything. And he came to me and said, hey, we were talking about this since I'm also a little bit in a startup mode still, and said, hey, how does it work and everything else? And said, by the way, you don't have to go there with this. And I said, why not? It's pretty simple. Yesterday, I called him. Hey, he picked up. Great. Good start. Was what you want as a sales guy, obviously. And so we're going to say, hey, spare your time. If you want to talk to me, you can come to my monthly CISO round. Okay, nice, interesting. What is it? Oh, nothing special. I have a bunch of colleagues. We are discussing here on a panel different CISO topics, and you can come there, talk to us, but for the small sponsoring fee of $20,000. Right? What? So let's think about this. You do a monthly CISO meeting. You invite some top names, whatever, friends out there. And by the way, I looked into this as well, and somehow the panel was always the same people on this. Surprise. Nevertheless, so they invite sponsors with tools, companies, mostly startups, interestingly. Say, so you want to talk to us, to the top CISO, you want to promote your tool? Then please pay the sponsoring fees. And I heard from the meantime, I got a lot of feedbacks out of this, thousands of feedbacks, hundreds of DMs and everything else with this. And some of them were very disturbing. Now, so it's a pattern out there in the meantime. And then the fees go between 5,000 up to 50,000, depending on the company. And you want to be part of this? You want to talk to us? You want to talk to me, CISO? You're not even allowed to present your tool. Now, just talking to us, pay the sponsoring fee. Crazy part is many pay.
Of course.
They're getting they just want to have the food on the door and everything else without even realizing. And this is probably a miss on the supplier side. Hey, do your due diligence on this, basically. Look into the history, how many have been there, anything else. Don't waste your money on these guys. But I checked it with a friend who is illegal and said, is this even legal? I said, it's totally legal, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So unethically.
Yeah, there's nothing.
No doubt about this, but legally,
yeah,
they're totally allowed to do this. And it's the same. It's the same play like you said with the guys basically buying stakes into different AI startups and bringing in these tools, sometimes even completely unvetted. And it's just crazy. And this was also a pattern from the emails and the DMs I got in there, and I was very close to pull out the names, a list with name of companies and everything else, send it to the CEOs and say, hey guys, do you even know what's going on in the area? Now, to the procurement teams, are you aware? What are you doing? But no, I'm not doing this. I'm not going this rabbit hole.
Yeah. So this is interesting. This is much as I didn't know about that, but this is much more prevalent, I think, than we would have suspected, because there's a couple of there's one particular one. Again, I'm not in the business of naming things, so I'll just say there's a conference that gets run a couple times a year, and it's always, hey, come sponsor. It's these great names. Wouldn't you love to meet the CISOs in this locality? It's this beautiful venue. Come sponsor. And when you look, the first time you look at it, you're like, wow, those are pretty interesting names. But if you look at who the attendees are, it's always the same people. And like you said, it's always that same group. And I'll go one step further and say, in the years that I've been on the vendor side, I don't think any one of them have ever bought anything that any company that I've worked for have been selling. Now that's my limited, obviously, right, limited scope here, but I'll take my sample size and maybe extrapolate something out of it, and that is that this feels like a mill. Like you just, it's a great way to go have a golf outing. It's a great way to go have a 1-day conference. It's a great way and then have people bring you interesting topics, pay money, and you get nice lunches, you get a nice dinner, nice venue, and you may or may not get a chance to talk to the people that will hopefully bring you back and buy something from you. And I start to wonder, like, is this why all of our security tech is just so damn expensive? Like, why we have to raise, $1 billion? Is it because we're buying? Like, is this the equivalent of just buying off the end? Pharmaceuticals does this. I've sat in doctors' offices where a pharmaceutical rep shows up, dumps, a carton of samples, and it says, "Hey, when do you guys want to go lunch? Bring me the group to go do lunch next. Where do you guys want to go golfing next week?" Like, wait a second. This feels like buying off the office. This feels like buying the business. How is it legal? I know it's not illegal necessarily. I'm pretty sure it's not ethical.
Is it
rant over?
Is it a huge difference from going, like, taking to dinner and doing all that stuff and all, hey, we're going to be in town. Come enjoy this steak dinner on us and all that stuff. I mean, a little bit feels like, kind of hate the player, don't hate the game type of thing.
Yeah, but be careful. In some countries, it is illegal. So there are some countries who have strict rules against this. And we call it out how it is. It's bribery. Bribery in plain sight, obviously.
Yeah.
But also the other countries, they have ways around. So what happens, basically, let's say, it's pretty simple, and I've seen it also firsthand. You fly out your leadership team to another country, to a conference, and meet the supplier there in another country. And there you get your gifts, your nice outing, probably an additional week of vacation or another vacation trip or whatever changes hands out of there. And suddenly the local laws do not apply anymore. So there are always ways to get around it. For me, it's sometimes very interesting how creative people get to do this. And I sometimes wonder, man, get this creativity into your CISO area with this, how to secure your teams, your own environment and everything else, or how to create more awareness out there, not the boring phishing campaign or anything else with this. But now it's about filling up our own pockets. And it's just getting worse from my point
Michael,
of view.
Do you think this is an overcorrection for the fact that our role in the leadership executive view just wasn't taken seriously, and so we spent a decade and a half, 2 decades, toiling away in the boiler room, as it may be, right, shoveling coal all day, while the fat cats in the executive suite, ate caviar and sailed down the river. And so we saw an opportunity, and frankly, we took it. Like, like James said, don't hate the player, hate the game. Is that an artifact, do you think? Is that how we got here?
Part of it, I would say. Part of it also plays the media. Part of it plays the influencers behind it. Let's probably step a bit back. A few years ago, cybersecurity was a hot topic. Everybody said, "Hey, you're in IT, go in cybersecurity, go get an education. You will immediately make 6 figures. You will make immediately a lot of money and everything else." And everybody's doing this. Everybody has done this. So I've not seen this in many, many other areas, but hey, I switched my career to cybersecurity. I do another training, and suddenly everybody thought, I am the super CISO. I am the super SOC guy. I am the perfect penetration tester behind it, without even having a basic understanding for what's going on with coding. I saw some pen testers who have no idea how to read code. And I said, sorry, at least a little bit understanding of basics of software development you should have to be a penetration tester. Just to give you another example with this. And now you see our whole industry flooded with tools, flooded with personnel, flooded with people out there with this. And we are not organized on this. our industry is absolutely not organized. We don't have a clear understanding what roles are, what is the tools. And coming back to your question, yes, that the leadership teams, the top boards have not seen the CISO role of cybersecurity as a necessity. They still see it as part of the IT team, which is not true. In fact, it was coming out of IT. Yes, it was initially coming out of IT, but this is completely gone right now. Every business process, every business decision needs to be aligned with cybersecurity, with topic, because not only about technical side, so look about the compliance side. How many compliance frameworks, what do you guess, do we have currently, let's say, between the EU and the US? How many compliance frameworks in all industry overall do exist?
A lot.
50.
How much? 30?
50.
50? Well, you're getting close. Last time I counted, when we talk a little bit the smaller ones, with everything, also for specific industries, we are around about 78. Who really wants to keep up with this? This is only EU and US. I'm not even counting the additional ones which come out of UK, probably, which come out of other countries with this. South America is catching up at the moment. Asia is catching up massively at the moment with compliance frameworks and everything else. And this is, coming back to the topic, this is why the business needs to be aware, because you are getting out of business if you don't assign your resources to this, if you don't take it serious anymore. Yes, IT still plays a part into this, infrastructure still plays a part into this, no doubt about this, but the boards need to be informed, and they still do not take this role serious. And this is how it happens, that they recruit these, fakers out there, let's just say this, these posers. They think, oh, this guy, top 100 influencer, voice, everything else, a lot of guys, and he comes from one of the big five, two of the big five, actually, probably three already on his resume. Hey, great, they hired him one after the other. First of all, would raise a question, so why did he leave and why didn't they keep him? But that's another story, which I never understand. He must know what he's doing. Oh, no, he does not. He does not. Because the thing is, when you're in a CISO role, you plan not for 1 year. You plan up to 4 or 5 years aligned with the business strategy behind it. You have to react on a real basis. Now, 3 years ago, we were talking about AI. No AI security, AI stocks, they pop up like mushrooms everywhere. This is just to give you an example with this. Now, some are very good, some are just, I would say, homemade or something else. I don't know. And the venture capital behind this is just crazy, and obviously they have a lot of influence on this. Now, they want to push the influencers, they want to get the people out there on the boards. Now, the boards, they have to take it serious. The HR areas have to take it serious right now. Don't hire, and sorry to say so, I'm pretty sure they exist, but these 28-year-old unicorns with leadership experience, have an MBA out there, 10 years of experience, know everything, and have worked on the top 5. Hire him, keep him, if you find somebody like this. And otherwise, get the experienced guys in there, and who know what they're doing, who have stayed in the company for 5 years to see the evolvement of their strategy, to see the impact, because you cannot see a cybersecurity impact on a strategy, on a company culture, if you just stay for 6 months, a year, or 1.5 years, or if you are constantly out there on conferences, collecting rewards, writing books, and whatever. Nothing wrong with writing books, don't get me wrong with this, but if I push out a book every other week, either way, I'm just letting AI push it out, or I have nothing else to do with this. And this is the awareness, and you completely said it, Rafael. Now, the boards, they underestimated this whole topic. Now, we have to become better. We have to raise more awareness, and that's my personal vendetta, probably, where I go.
It's interesting to look at one tenure, right? I mean, to your point, it takes a few years to recognize any gains in security when you come in as a new leader. So if you're there for 6 months or a year, there's a good chance you were dipping out before anybody is able to realize gains or losses. Right?
That's the thing.
I came in, I spent some time, and before anybody realizes what's going on, I'm out of here, right? And I'll move to the next one. And with the big names, once you get a big name, right, you barely even have to interview. I will say that having the influence side of things, there are organizations that are looking for somebody that in a leadership position, can you build a team? If I'm somebody that has no internet presence, who am I reaching out to help build a team of of tech people. So maybe there's an angle there. But I do find it interesting that we've seen for a while now, even on like security analyst roles, AppSec roles. I mean, in the just job descriptions, they're posting saying, nice to haves. You go out and give talks. You go out and do this. Like they want you to have this virtual presence, like that makes a difference, whether you're going out presenting or whether you're just sitting down, heads down, actually getting work done. There's this stigma around the fact that if you're the one presenting, you're working on this groundbreaking stuff that, we got to have them here because they're going to just take us leaps and bounds. When really they're just presenting on stuff a lot of other people are already working on. They're just not talking about it. Right. But there's that stigma around this. And I could see, at the CISO level, boards that are kind of taking that same perspective and saying, we want somebody that's outward facing and has this big name, because it's almost like that compliance checkbox. Like, ooh, look who we got. We must be doing security because they're beloved by all.
Can I ask, do you guys think does this happen with CEOs? Does this happen with CFOs?
I don't think so, to be very honest. Probably with CIOs more on a technical level. A CFO, when you leave
go listen to them talk,
CEO role with this basically. So if you crash a company because of financials, everybody knows it.
Yeah.
If you're a CEO, you fail, you have no knowledge, the board will kick you out, or basically the company is already done with this. So, and everybody who is doing his due diligence sees it. Probably marketing, I can see this happen as well. But say these very, very intense, crucial roles, CFO, probably COO, and also probably CEO. I don't see this that much happen because they work more on a strategic level. The CFO obviously is one of the most critical roles, probably one of the biggest partners right now for cybersecurity at all. From my personal view, the CISO should report either to the CFO or to the CEO. Because these are the guys who work with on a daily basis, who makes the critical decisions, strategic decisions for a company at all. But personally, it will exist for sure, but not in this amount like we see it in cybersecurity.
But do we see it with CTO, CIO, like those kind of, more the technical side of things? I mean, are we seeing the same type of rock star mentality, influencer, pushing that type of stuff? I mean, do CTOs have their secret, groups that charge to come in and give vendor presentations?
Let me ask you this question. Have you seen any CTO top 100 lately? Or anything else? I have not seen anything like this. They probably exist, but you see CIO top 100. You see CEO top 100. Do you see CFO top 100? Not really out there somehow. So it's not a shiny topic at all. With this probably to get around. In some roles you can hide. In some roles you can't hide. This is also how we see it. No? And in CISO role you can hide as well. If you have an excellent team out there, let them do the work and shine. Happens with this, but it's also okay. As long he's a very good leader and he can sell and let his team work, I'm totally fine with this. But don't sell everything that you're the best guy in the room and the most technical guy in the room. Basically, good leadership for me personally is I don't have to be the smartest person, quite the opposite. I have to hire persons who are way smarter in the area. They have to tell me what it is. And I just have to be dangerous enough that they don't bullshit me. That's my leadership.
Very true. I think it's a good place to end it because we're out of time. So this has been a fun conversation, Michael. I think, I'm always going to stand on the side of ethics. We've all done things that we later question, but it's the repeatedly doing those things and wondering if anybody notice is the problem. I think this industry as a whole has an obsession with being famous and getting on TV and being, glorified and getting in front of and being a rock star for your peers. I think it's unhealthy. I think it produces a number of side effects that are felt by the people that you leave behind after you leave, or the people back in your company that are trying to, it's like a duck, right? Where above the water line. The CISO is standing on stage and getting award after award and giving keynote after keynote. Below the water, like back at home in the office, people are furiously working crazy hours just to try to, keep that company afloat. And I think it's dangerous. I think it's bad leadership. I think it's bad ethics. And I think maybe if it doesn't catch up with you tomorrow, I think it hopefully eventually will. But I don't know. This is a weird industry. Michael, thanks for joining us. This has been a good conversation, kind of a frank conversation. It's worth having for sure.
It's a must conversation we must have out there. No? So we cannot avoid it. No? That's a reality.
All right. Well, folks, thanks for listening. I hope you got something out of this. And, be smart, have your wits about you, be ethical, be you. And we'll see you guys another time, another place on another Down the Security Rabbit Hole podcast. Ciao, everybody. Bye-bye.
This is Bella. Thanks for listening. Don't forget to leave my dad a review and share this with your friends. Bye.